Patrick Jordan, General Counsel.
Derek Smith, Director of Internal Controls and Enterprise Analysis.
Richard Hendrick, General Manager.
All right, thank you. So I just am going to amend our agenda to remove item number 1, which was a presentation by the USS Slater. They actually came in right before our governance committee and talked about some of the investment that they're making at the ship, their visitation, and how significant that has increased, as well as thanks support for the various levels of support that we provide them through the way that they promote maritime activity, past and current, here in the Capital Region. So we want to thank them for all they do to keep the Slater afloat and as a destination in the city of Albany. So in your packet you have a copy of the minutes from the December 5th meeting. If there's no changes, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor? As we do every year, it's audit time, and so we have UHY advisors here to discuss really our engagement and our plan for the 2018 audit.
Thanks, Georgette. Bill sends his regrets. He unfortunately had to unexpectedly go out of town at the last minute today. So Kathleen's here to join me as well, and she's the senior on the audit engagement for a couple of years now. And so just wanted to really introduce the audit plan. Nothing significantly new this year, so we've gone over the materials before, so we'll just I'll be brief, but if you want to discuss anything in more detail, we certainly can. But this is the planning meeting, for the introduction to our audit approach, and if you have any concerns or want us to implement or change any of our procedures to look at certain areas or certain things, by all means we can tailor that accordingly. But we'll meet again at the March meeting to discuss the audit results. Of course, we've met with management throughout the year. They keep us up to date with activities and operations, and I know it's been quite a busy year, so we're looking forward to auditing those results as well and presenting those in March. But if we want to take a quick look through the presentation, starting on page 3, again, the audit objective, just a reminder that it's really to issue an opinion on the financial statements, which are the responsibility of management. So we issue our piece of the financial statements are really just the 3 reports. One is actually an opinion on the financial statements as a whole. One's an opinion on the internal control over financial reporting. And then this year, similar to last year, you have an additional federal single audit because of the federal expenditures that you had exceeding a certain threshold. So we'll do a compliance and control audit over those expenses specifically. And then, again, the responsibility of management, again, to adhere to sound accounting policies and, prepare the financial statements and the various accounting. And, your responsibility as the audit committee is the oversight responsibility, where UHY will come in and test that and make sure everything's going accordingly to plan. This is outlaid on page 5 with the expression of that opinion and planning the audit. It is a risk-based audit, so we're going to tailor our procedures to make sure to look at not only unusual transactions but non-routine transactions, large dollars of significance or anything out of the ordinary, of course, but also significant dollars. Even if it is routine, we're going to get support and comfort over that as well. So, page 6, again, those audit deliverables, already really discussed that, but again, the various reports, both the expression. So you do have 2 financial statements. There's what we call the short form, which is your main financial statements, and what we refer to as the long form includes that single audit. The short form you include in your CAFR that you that you deliver. If there was a management letter, we would communicate that to you. If there's any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, noted draft audit, we'd bring those to your attention. If there was anything of significance, any fraud, or we would, of course, bring that to your immediate attention to deal with. But, don't expect any, but if there was anything to bring to your attention, we would do so immediately. And then we meet with management throughout the year. Again, the sort of the timeline, of course we want to keep open dialogue throughout the entire year to make sure that we have a general understanding of what's going on and that it's accounted for properly in advance, not just kind of correcting things as we arrive. But through that planning stage in December and January, we develop our audit procedures, select samples, make sure that we understand the significant transactions during the year, and then the fieldwork schedule is actually it's coming up quick. It's a week from Monday, I believe. So basically 2 weeks from now, we'll be here on site for at least a week and perform the detailed testing with Eric and his team, and then by the end of that week, we really start to have a working draft of the financial statement, and through that we do some editorial, and once we get a good draft along, I know Eric and the team works on the MD&A, and we'll be ready to issue the final report for the March meeting. And then after that, I think it's scheduled for March 27th, if I'm not mistaken, the fourth Wednesday, so there's a quick turnaround time for your Paris reporting due March 31st, but everything will be ready to upload, right?
Exactly.
The areas of audit focus, again, as we discussed, if it's significant, we're certainly looking at it, making sure that it's being looked at, and the fraud risk. But as you know, there's some significant grant activity during the current year, and other non-income transactions, that we'll make sure are accounted for appropriately. This year as well, we talked about it last year, we'll talk about it again this year, but the implementation of GASB 75 is the only new accounting principle that's being adopted this year. And again, just as a reminder, that you're accounting for the OPEB, or post-retirement employee benefits other than pension. So the Government Accounting Standards Boards changed how that's accounted for and gave direct actuarial directions on how to calculate it. And Eric's been working with your actuary, and I'm sure that's hopefully coming along.
I'm actually reviewing the draft as we speak. So
I'm sure I'm expecting probably increase slightly, but we'll look at that and make sure it's accounted for properly. But it's more a little less leeway in choices that the actuary gets to make now. But again, and certain costs are amortized a lot quicker than they used to be, so that'll have an impact on your financial statements. And there'll actually be a restatement, so don't be surprised by a beginning balance restatement of your financial position this year. A lot of times when people see restatements, they think error or correction of an error from last year, but that's not the case. It's really just the adoption of that accounting matter, and it's adoption of the principle that requires the beginning balance restatement, as if you had been applying it all along. And that's kind of page 9 in a nutshell. After the final page there, what's included is actually a copy of the engagement letter for management's review, and have the original here for signature, just to, again, engage you required to perform the work. And but again, that just outlines what we basically just discussed, the general audit objectives, management's responsibility over those financial accounting and the financial report, the general audit procedures, including the compliance with the single audit, and then the general administrative type activities. So any questions, comments, concerns about
And
that?
so we definitely anticipate a single audit this
Yeah.
year, because we didn't have one last year.
no, we did. We'll have a single audit for the foreseeable future as we work through our federal funding.
Not a bad thing. Well,
Right, we'll take.
And
yeah.
it's a fairly low threshold,
Yeah.
particularly in the
For federal
context
money.
of what we're using the funds for. It's $750,000. So we'll be meeting that threshold for the foreseeable future.
Anyone have any questions? Okay. Thank you very much. We
Great.
need to officially.
No, this is under our contract, so we can take the engagement letter. We'll have it executed and I'll return it to you.
There's actually 2 copies in case for your own
One
record.
thing, Georgette, and this is at the board's discretion. There's always an opportunity, certainly, not only throughout the audit, we do direct, you and the rest of the commissioners, direct access to Brian and his team, if you so choose. You certainly can excuse staff if there's anything you want to discuss with UHY specifically.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Looking forward to a couple weeks. I'll be in touch.
Yep, sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Okay.
Earlier the governance committee met and made a recommendation of Albany Park District Commission officers. And so before you have resolution, our first resolution of 2019, and is for the current positions to remain the same. So myself as chairperson, Joe as treasurer, and Dominic as secretary. So I'll take a motion to approve resolution 1-2019.
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you very much. So we did, at the governance committee, we did a review of all of our previous policies. The main one was the new sexual harassment policy, or changes to the sexual harassment policy, which we will be looking at adopting in February.
Correct.
The staff and the governance committee do not recommend making any changes to any of our other policies.
Correct.
Anything else that we covered that should be
No,
stated?
our annual requirement with respect to board self-evaluation, conflict of interest declarations, and also there are no changes being recommended for the board's consideration for the governance committee charter.
Great. So we also are reviewing, everyone has in their packet, our annual multi-year contract. Schedule A here. Does anyone have any questions about any of those?
Well, I guess technically only those 4 are term contracts. The other ones are really more single project contracts, aren't they?
Yes. Yeah. So they're done when the
construction.
Right. My feeling was, since we've spanned a 1-year period, to have them on the schedule, and then they'll drop off as those projects are complete.
Well, there's no renewal on them anyway, right?
Right. Exactly. There's no. Right. I see what you're. Okay. Sorry.
I thought we were just looking at the term contracts. It's here, it's down, it's on the.
I follow what you're saying. So, the language in the section of the.
We don't have an appraiser under a term contract. I thought we did at one point.
No, we don't.
No. I have another question. I'm not sure, since we're going to be talking about the performance of one of the contractors, if that's something I should defer. Have you had any performance issues with any of these contractors? We've had some concerns about their ability to perform in a timely fashion, because they have so much and they're a little thin. Just a question.
That was one of our concerns, that he has not had any issue with response to calls for service. So at the present time, no on that.
Maybe that's the big action. Supposed to see you guys. All right.
And so if I'm reading this, am I reading this right? That Intervid's contract with us is over the end of this month? So is that 1 year plus 4 1-year renewals?
Yes.
So have we gone out to bid for that?
That's 1 year later.
Yeah, that's one of the later resolutions.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. And so really all of these are up this year.
Yes.
Okay. That's good. Sharpen your pencil, get the best services, and that's great.
So I'll move that we adopt resolution
To
2019.
All in favor? Great, thank you. Hey, Eric, it's just the beginning of the year, but our financial update.
Right, so this is actually capturing results through December 31st on a pre-audit basis, obviously, with what Brian and Kathleen presented. We're right in the middle and continuing on with year-end final entries. As I indicated, I've been evaluating the drafts of both the GASB 68, GASB 75 entries. That's not reflected in the draft results in the packet. However, both of those required entries are on a non-cash basis. So just briefly covering the balance sheet, there's been significant growth of approximately $20 million from the size of our balance sheet at December 31st, 2017 to December 31st, 2018. It's not surprising, considering that within that 12-month period, there's been significant progress in both the wharf project and the warehouse project, as well as the acquisition of land in Bethlehem. There's not really anything else of note at this time to review on the balance sheet. Those items are contained within our net property and equipment line, primarily. And then the growth on the liability side has not been with the current or longer-term liabilities necessarily, although we certainly did execute an additional sublease with Bank of America, but it's really within the net position line itself, which is driven by the results through 2018 on our budget performance.
You got a hand grenade sense of what the impact of GASB 75 is going to be?
So,
just a rough.
Looking at the draft, it looks to approach about $100,000 on the expense side. We have to go through every year, and the process requires a lot of rate information, a lot of census data information. So through that review and through the actuaries' review, their preliminary expectation is that we would incur an expense approaching $100,000. It's
significant.
Right.
Does anyone have any other questions on the room? Okay. All right, so we're going to talk about, so one of the new things added to our agenda is a quarterly update on our cyber security. I know we were lucky to receive a grant award last year and had a plan that came from that. So is that Tom or Rich? Which you guys are going to...
In early December, we, as several ports did, had an attack on our computers. Our IT director, Tom McGinnis, have identified 3 of the computers, myself, the head of security, and the IT director as 3 and only 3 being impacted by it. Tom took steps right away, and they're identified in a report that he gave to limit any damage. We immediately shut down those 3 and removed the Dropbox attachments that were creating the phishing scam. Made notification to ports across the country immediately that do not open these. They were a hack of our system. Tom worked with New York State Office of Cybersecurity as to what other steps he should take. They were done, and since that time, we've been monitoring on a probably hourly basis. We have stopped that attack on our system, and since that time, he has been sending out daily tests to people. As you go around the building, you'll see notes, think before clicking, and sort of like we did with our recycling, get people just thinking. There's a lot of people that are contacting Tom, is this safe? And then he is removing, as he picks up, he's removing the hazard to an email and sending it out to everybody. These hacks that are coming in are so legitimate looking that if you don't take the time to read everything, so he's just on a daily basis sending out information to the entire staff to keep them aware of it, and similar to other organizations where if you send it out and it's clicked on, then you get remedial training on how to operate your computer so that you don't put us all in jeopardy. That was the way that issue was handled, and it's been at the forefront every day since it occurred.
You know, I know I've received a couple of your emails saying if you receive an email from this person, don't open it, or, you know, there's this current trend going around.
It's almost every day I get one.
Yeah.
At least 2 or 3 a week for sure.
Okay, so we have also received some sponsorship requests. The first is the first one is for the Chamber's annual dinner. Thank you. So this is something that we've done as a way for business development and marketing as we continue to elevate our work here in the region. And so it's a sponsorship for their annual dinner. It's something that we attend as well. And so it is for a premier table sponsor level at a cost not to exceed $3,500. They have over 1,000 attendees. There's great visibility at the event as well. And it's geared towards our marketing and business development business attraction.
I move adoption of Resolution 3, 2019.
Great, thank you very much. So the second request that we have is, oh, I'm sorry, all in favor? Figure since these 2 motions, we all were in agreement. I apologize.
Go for it. A
village, guess that's what we pay him for, right?
I guess so.
A village has requested a sponsorship for its 2019 Celebration of Progress event that's held in February. as a community builder level at a price not to exceed $500. This is something we did sponsor last year, as they are here right in our neighborhood, and really as the South End continues to build and improve, so to support. It is also a neighborhood of which we draw many of our employees. So there's that request for $500.
Do we extend as these associations, and I had a question, I think I was going to raise it with you, because we were approached with this as well, and in our mission, we are not allowed to do this within our mission. I actually checked with our port council. I can see it here with the port, but as we have done more, from our perspective, more outreach and interaction with the South End, there are many more of these organizations kind of emerging. At one point, this might get to be a little bit of a slippery slope with support and sponsorship, so it's just something maybe to kind of keep on the radar. They are looking to get a lot more associations and partnering with people that have assets to help promote their development of the South End. So just something to think about moving forward. I don't feel this will be the last one you're going to see. I think Willie White, Kansas City Chiefs. Willie White is retiring. He got new leadership with Jaqueen, and so I think there's going to be a lot more outreach and engagement, a little more energy rather than what we've seen in the past.
Right, for a full community, almost master plan.
Yeah, and I think they may be looking to the port and some of the larger entities that they interact with community perspectives on a more frequent basis. So just for information. I move we adopt resolution 4/2019.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Durham Drive emergency repair.
Is the one that changed the resolution as well?
Yes.
Yes.
So, Pat or Rich?
We had an ongoing flooding issue that has been sort of like kicked down the street for quite a period of time. We did a lot of research into drainage issues that were impacted on Dunham Drive with the recent rainstorms we had. We had flooding that was making it unsafe for trucks leaving that area. We looked at 3 different approaches to mitigate the flooding, and then decided on a basin that would be dug that was 8 foot wide. It was originally intended at about 80 foot long, and to a depth of as much as 8 foot. As we began the process to make that area safe, we found that one of the issues that was preventing drainage down there was that there was a road 2 foot under where we began. But as this was becoming an extreme hazard down there, I deemed that it was a safety issue with trucks passing and with the flooding. I had spoken to several truck drivers. They were afraid to drive through the water. They didn't know what was on the sides and with the trucks. So we took and put in a drainage pond with 2 grades of stone and riprap that would handle water conditions that were on the road. We put new guardrail up so that trucks could see the edge of the road. And since the day the work was completed with the rain that we had, and now the recent snows, we haven't seen any buildup of water on the road. We believe that the approach and the process that we took will carry us into the future mitigating that problem.
Before you is Resolution 5-2019, which authorizes the general manager to execute the necessary documents to facilitate the emergency repairs at Dunham Drive at a cost not to exceed $25,417.14. All in favor? Next up is the security systems repair and maintenance RFP.
Yes, we put out an RFP for the security system, which, as was noted earlier, the contract with Intervid was expiring. We had 5 responses to the RFP. Brought all 5 companies in for a site visit and overview of everything that the security department operates. Following that, we had 2 companies respond respond to the RFP. We interviewed both companies. We checked with the people that they had mentioned. We went and did site visits to see the equipment that was being used by customers of both companies. And at the end of the day, after reviewing everything and doing a cost analysis and a best position for the port, the staff is recommending that a new contract be issued to Intervid on a annual basis of 1 year with a maximum of 5 years under this RFP.
How many local technicians does Intervid have to support the contract?
3.
For all of the work locally, Intervid has 3 technicians?
Yes, I believe that is it for all the jobs that they have.
Is this price, was it an increase over the last contract, and if so, by how much?
Do you have the number?
Last contract. I think it was an increase. I don't recall the exact number of the contract.
Yeah, it did, and
Prices on the schedule.
one of the benefits under the new contract, the equipment that we had was outdated. As part of their first year under this contract, all of those servers are being replaced as part of the contract, which is where staff determined that for the best position for the port, with all that new equipment under this contract, as opposed to the other responder, the cost versus benefit was determined to be well in our favor.
If we had Intervid under a contract for multiple years before that, how did they allow the servers to get outdated?
I don't believe they're outdated. They're coming to the end of their life. They were replaced. I think they've been replaced 3 times since Intervid first took over the contracts, or they were the first contractor in 2003 when all of the security measures were put in place. At that point, I think that the port had 16 cameras, and from there have morphed into where there's at one point 100 cameras. We went from gigabytes of storage to terabytes, and in so doing have upgraded. Now we've gone to where we've removed all of those cameras from our servers, which are now cloud-based, and we're moving towards cloud-based with these servers under this proposed new contract.
And so, in the time since 2003, you guys are happy with the way your relationship, the way they're responsive, the responsiveness, change orders, anything that you need to do with them, you guys are...
Yes, they as Joe had mentioned, they don't have a major staff, but when security director does put in a call, they are meeting the requirements of within, I think it's 3 hours on an emergency call, and within 8 hours on a non-emergency call. They're meeting what is stipulated in their operating agreement with us.
My concern is more that equipment may not be updated and replaced during the course of the contract until, okay, now we're going to do all this with a new contract. So I'll support this, but I'm going to be asking a lot of questions after the first year. That's from my own personal experience.
Because the technology changes.
Technology is changing, and I'm concerned that they have so many clients and so few technicians to serve it. At some point, that's going to bust.
In the past, the contract was basically a service contract, and we had to make a decision as to not buy certain equipment that what we had was still functioning because of the cost of the new equipment. Did we really need that because it was outside of the service contract? That was the one nice thing under the new first year of this agreement, is that they are supplying all of the equipment to bring our servers and up to 2019.
Is it all proprietary equipment?
No, it's not. And that was one of the stipulations with both companies we interviewed, was that it could not be proprietary, that it had to be open to anybody that would.
What's the other company?
Security integration.
Security Integrations. I believe they're up on Walker Way in Colony. Both companies put forth very good proposals. And as I said, the big thing was that for the first year, and it was noted that we could take advantage of this contract for 1 year. And
because of renewals.
yes, because it's only a 1-year contract. They have to live up to what is in the contract.
So at any point we could cancel, or we could go back out to RFP.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, so you're recommending a 1 year with four 1-year renewal options.
Options, yes.
Yeah. At 96 cents per year. Okay, then. All right, Dominic, motion to approve resolution 6-2019, second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, another emergency repair for the Rensselaer Wharf.
Yes, at the last meeting, I had brought to your attention that we had an issue with a tug and barge unit hitting the wharf over in Rensselaer. We were able to get the engineer who designed the wharf. He came up, he looked at it, met with the insurance companies, the tug company, Weeks Marine, has also been up, looked at the work. We needed to have it done immediately as to, one, we were running out of a window for work in stream, and that we were not able to make it a safe berth with the 85 foot of broken timber piles to breast the ship. We, in dealing with our engineer, seen that with the company doing the work on the South Wharf and having all that material on site, that was the way to go. Pat has been working with the insurance companies, both ours and Weeks Marine, and the work is actually, we received our permit from the Army Corps and DEC to get the work completed by second week in February.
That's when they want it to. They actually opened the window until I think March 1st, just in case. But looking at the weather, other than the last few days, we've had very favorable weather with the river not freezing up.
And actually, most of the work is already completed. Everything is out. The new piles are in. They only had to wrestle with 2 piles, and until the river froze, they were actually doing all the low tide work. So it should be done hopefully in the next 2 weeks.
So so this is an expense that will be completely reimbursed to us from the insurance company.
Yes.
So Resolution 7-2019 authorizes the general manager to execute the necessary documents to facilitate emergency repairs of the Rensselaer Wharf at a cost not to exceed $318,235.99, which will then be reimbursed by our insurance carrier, who will then make a subrogation claim against Weeks Marine.
Move we adopt Resolution 7/2019.
All in favor?
Aye.
General manager update.
The key business development that we're working for in 2019 and many years forward is the offshore wind energy. The bids for the state are for the licenses off of Long Island Sound are, I believe, due back in February. The results of those bids will give us a lot further direction as we move with our development of the 80 acres of land. We're in the middle of the seeker process with the town of Bethlehem on that, and staff has a meeting on Friday with the town, with the engineers that the town hired as their MJ Engineering is handling it for the town. And as we go further down, but we're still getting positive information from NYSERDA on the offshore wind and the fact that we're located in a good region for being able to be a big part of it. We're looking at increasing our maritime business development and building with different lines of business, just so that we're not so heavily concentrated on just heavy lift project cargo. Tony and Bill have been working nonstop on a new customer for wood pulp and lumber, and that is looking real positive. The wood pulp is very positive. We've secured that, and even just the first week of February we have 2 pulp ships coming. So that we're looking at long term as beneficial, which is going to increase business here, which is going to relate to positive impacts on employment for our local communities. We're this year due for another evaluation of Green Marine, and I feel it's very important that we meet the criteria of that and remain a Green Marine port. It is a big topic at a lot of the AAPA and North Atlantic port discussions, and with us being a leader in both of those organizations, remaining a member is is a key benefit to the port. The contract that you approved us to enter into at the last meeting, the technical work that's moving forward on the new warehouse is underway. We had ground testing that was completed yesterday, cone testing. Tomorrow they're coming and doing 3 test bores to 300 feet. The engineers expect a quick turnaround on the report of that. We are in the process of having the area around the new warehouse, as well as the old Greco building and the entire new wharf, and then the rest of the facility all surveyed, so that we know going forward that we have the ability to build something here. Bill and I have been working with General Electric for some temporary storage, because a lot of stuff that's in the warehouses needs to be moved out. So as a good problem to have, we can make room for this new cargo that they've landed. So we're looking at where we can put another temporary building that will be at the customer's expense to fit in with where we're building the new warehouse, and then just to keep things moving for more business development.
Any questions for Rich on that?
All good.
Yeah, that's exciting stuff. Any other property or development updates?
No, just we're moving with things are moving forward with the Bethlehem property. It's just that we're waiting for that final letter. We haven't received it yet from SHPO.
No, I mean, there's outliers, but we've been moving favorably with the town. I've gone to the 3 planning board meetings. There's been no surprises. They're asking routine questions, and if anything was sitting through the rest of the developments going on there, their questions are positive, and they seem to, I know that their staff is in favor of the project, which is, the best way to move through the planning board. We'll be meeting with them on Friday with Steve and his crew from McFarland to go through the next steps that we need for seeker. We're going to meet with, like Rich said, the town has hired MJ Engineering for their purposes, and we have our own engineer. So we're all going to meet on Friday to start that process. And we'll be back in front of the planning board probably in, I don't think we're on next month, probably 2 months. Just keep going.
I've seen Weitzman has I think he's trying to get a new shredder.
2,500 horsepower shredder that they're on the planning board with. Yeah, we looked at that in the lease. It was one of those things where they had to pretty much ask, but it couldn't be approval couldn't be withheld. But we did direct them at first. The owner didn't think, because he termed it a portable unit, that he didn't have to go to the city. It is big enough that he does and needs planning board, and I believe ZBA approval.
Oh, BZA.
I don't know if it needs to be the approval. I can't, planning board is the special use permit that he needs, I think, for the size and noise.
And then will it have major impacts to us or the other tenants?
No, it should hopefully turn him into sort of the same problem we have with the terminal, that he should be getting enough product that he needs that shredder, that he will either be able to facilitate using a barge system or a ship system, or what we're hearing now is to either start or decrease using trains.
Great.
So try to get him off the road.
Yeah, that's great.
But, he should be having enough profit margin where he then needs to expand to get that supply out of here.
That's good news. discussion? So we have our maritime business assessment by Tony.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sure. No problem.
If you would turn to the first page of your ships, barges, tonnage, and longshore hour report. 2018 was a good year. If you look down about 2/3 of the way down in the year-to-date section, the totals, the blue column. In 2017, we handled a total of 60 ships and barges. And in 18, we handled 72, which was an increase of 12 or 20%. Some of the reasons for that is if you look at the first two product areas, heavy lift project and barges heavy lift project, total of 38 for 17 and 51 for 18. And that was primarily due to two major energy projects that we handled, Cricket Valley down near Poughkeepsie and the Fairview project in western Pennsylvania, Johnstown, PA. Another increase in a market segment was scrap iron, 9 vessels in 18 versus 7 the prior, increase of 2. Wind energy, decrease of 4. We did not come across any opportunities or projects that enabled us to go for any wind business. Wood pulp, up 2 ships, and Bill will talk about that later, and Rich mentioned that already. Total 20% increase number of vessels last year was a positive sign. Now let's just skip over the second page, the tonnage report monthly, and just go to the year-to-date. And the year-to-date section, about 2/3 of the way down. The total tonnage for 17 was around 270,000 tons, and 2018, 327,000. Where were the increases? Scrap iron was up around 53,000 tons, 211,000 versus 157, up 34%. Also, as mentioned, wood pulp, the 2 extra ships brought us an extra 14,000 plus tons, 34% increase. And so that covers that overall, 21% in total tonnage, 18 versus 17. And the last page, longshore hours. 17, we had 61,987. In 18, 58,185. Less 3,800 and some hours, around 6%. A good year also. During 18, we had a record in May of 12,000 plus tons. And the longshoremen consider a good year where they cover everybody at 50,000 hours. So surpass that somewhat. Looking forward to 2019, we will not have projects such as Cricket Valley and Fairview. There is one project that we've been working on. The first portion in Lordstown, Ohio, we already handled. We're working on the second one. It's the only major project that we're looking at and I've identified for 2019. There are other spot shipments that we're working on, but nothing that reached the level of the 2 projects aforementioned. And Bill, if you would cover from your standpoint.
Yes, Tony mentioned, I think the biggest effect we're going to have this year is the project cargo, specifically on the import side. I mean, we had a lot of freight come in last year, which also is a very labor-intensive type of cargo, so I think we're going to see a little bit of effect on the man hours overall, just basically not seeing that kind of volume. The export, again, was a little slow that last year, and we look to have it kind of on the slow side this year as well, so that's up, remain to be seen. The good news is the wood pulp, with the new customer, as Rich mentioned, with the wood pulp pretty much signed on. We have 2 ships in 18, and they originally gave us a projection of 50,000 tons for 2019. We met with them last week. They've upped that to 84,000 for 2019. So with that, on top of our present customer who we've had for years, they're 40,000, we're looking at 124,000 ton of wood pulp for 2019. So that'll make up a little bit of the difference with, with the loss of the project. We also met with their timber products people last week, who are very interested in moving that operation out of another Northeast port into Albany and combine their whole package right here and ship both cargoes on the same ship. I got a good feel after the meeting. I guess it's all logistically if it's going to make sense. We'll see. But I think we gave them a package that they liked. They liked the facility. They liked the storage facilities. So we'll see. If we can add that to the mix, then that's just another big boost, specifically with this one customer. And they are both interested in looking at long-term agreements. So we're presently working on that, see if we can lock them down for a while. As far as the new customer goes, we're their port right now. They're not calling another port in North America. Along, as Tony mentioned, we are working on some small projects here and there, nothing significant, but there's a few pieces here and there that we're working on that look positive. The other steady business, obviously with pulp and our scrap business, is the car body shelves. That will continue through this year, probably about 8 or 9 vessels, about 100 car body shelves, plus the general cargo that goes with it. So that'll be steady on top of it. So, yeah, some ups and downs, but overall it still looks decent.
As Bill mentioned, the wood pulp customer has been very satisfied with the 2 vessels they've discharged here. We estimate, Bill, about an extra 10 or so vessels, somewhere around there.
Probably, yeah. The thing is that the vessel calls could be affected because they're looking to increase the tonnage on the vessels. So, right now we're getting 8,000 a ship. The next ship after this one will be 8,000, and they're looking to bounce it up to 10. So that they're getting a better bang for the buck by getting more cargo here. So it could affect the vessel calls, but still, fair amount of tonnage.
And we've also worked from the standpoint of helping the customer to move some of the product via rail to various destinations, which provides a better, in one customer's case, much better opportunity for inventory control for production, because they have 17 rail sidings but only 1 truck siding. So we've been working with the railroads to deliver good pricing from that standpoint. And it's also going to help the Albany Port Railroad. We're going to have, how many extra, maybe about 300 in the one to Albany?
Well, the one customer that Tony you're mentioning is they're right now we're looking at 3 to 5 a week once it gets going. There's at least 2 more customers that want specifically rail. So we could have some significant rail movement going through here for pulp this year.
I'm meeting with the railroad next week, the different market managers, to ensure that they develop some good pricing. And Bill's staff has worked with them in setting up systems, because we haven't handled boxcars and rail out of here very often in the past.
In a while.
And so you have to set up all kind of different systems, and the railroads are very complex. So we've been working on that.
Okay. Anyone have any questions for Tony or Bill?
No.
Thank you. That's a great report.
Thank you.
Any other business? We don't have anything for executive session. So our next meeting is scheduled for February 27th at 12:30.